Hi, this is Tom Vasel, and I had the fortunate ability to go from Homestead, Florida to Indianapolis this year for Gen Con 2010. Supposedly over 30,000 people showed up, and even though I was there only for Thursday and Friday, you certainly can believe that there was quite a few people there. There was one giant exhibition hall, and there was multiple rooms all around the center where just people of all ages, sizes, and colors, and weird gaming backgrounds all got together to play games. There's a lot of fun. I would say that the convention's more about looking at stuff than it is about playing. Here we are on opening day, Thursday, and they're getting ready to let the crowds in. I got in a little bit early to videotape it, and I was going to see how long it took before the initial crowd got in, but it got a little boring because they just kept coming and coming and coming. And they came in for good reason. There's a lot of things to see and do at Gen Con. And you can just go over the place. Here you can play Battletech against other players in these giant machines that simulate feeling like you're inside one of the Battletechs. Monsterpocalypse was one of the bigger draws. Now that they've added Voltron to the mix, I think that's going to be pretty exciting. And I think I've heard that they're making a movie of it. So there was a lot of that going on in the center. You can also pretty much find all kinds of role-playing and CCGs, even from years gone by, are sold there. There's a lot of things that are sold at the Gen Con auction. Now I happen to go in and record here at a time when they were selling the garbage games. You can see that not many people are really interested in buying them, but hey, they were there, and there was also an auction store where you could get games. I don't think anyone's going to want this game either, are they? Well, we look for it, and I guess you take your games there, maybe make a little bit of money, and if you want to get games, it's a lot of fun to sit there, I guess, in a real live auction as opposed to eBay or other places on the internet. So this place is pretty crowded most of the time that I was there with people wanting to buy more games. As the Dice Tower, of course, I'm interested in seeing different dice, and there was at least 6 dice people selling dice. Here's the Emissary, one of Geek Chic's tables, absolutely amazing, and they were right in the center where people were coming in, just lots of folks wanting to get good tables.
It's framed! It's framed by Tom Vasel. If anybody sees this, please send money. It's framed by Tom Vasel, I'm telling you.
Lego had a booth there showing off their 9 of their 10 different games that they have out right now, and that was drawing a lot of attention. I think partially because of the games, partially because of the popularity of Lego, and partially because of the giant climbable inflatable pyramid behind the booth. There's always a lot of fun things to do and see, and there's always interesting things. You can even buy geeky soap here. I'm not sure exactly who bought it and why, so I asked the people.
Who buys it more? Do people buy it who need it, or people buy it?
I find that a lot of women buy it for husbands and boyfriends. I'm not sure if that's safe, but I don't want to make anybody mad, so I'm just going to leave it at that.
What's the most popular?
You know what? That Dr. Who soap, the TARDIS, and Pure Light Wounds is a big hit.
Obviously, you could buy soap at this convention, but there are other things you could buy, such as elven ears. But let's face it, we're here to talk about games. One of the biggest games making a splash here, that not really even production yet, this is a pre-production copy, is Sid Meier's Civilization. This was originally designed by Glenn Drover, produced by Eagle Games, but it's now being put out by Fantasy Flight Games, as you can tell with all the pieces, and done by Kevin Wilson, the man explaining it here in the picture. He's one of my favorite designers, and so that plus Fantasy Flight, plus the idea of Civilization, it certainly sounds interesting. And there's also quite a few other things coming from Fantasy Flight Games, and they had a whole display shelf where you could see, for example, here, the Battle of Westeros expansions that are being planned to come out, new armies, and more beyond that. You can see here the painted miniatures for Arkham Horror, $4 per miniature, 48 of them, and yet people were buying them for their games. And so there was all sorts of different things here. Fantasy Flight was definitely one of the most crowded booths of the show. There were people coming and just buying tons of games. City of Thieves here, you could buy painted miniatures for that game also. Very popular, the whole booth was. Another game that was making a big splash was Seven Wonders from Asmodee Editions. I didn't get a chance to play it, but the producers told me that this is one of the best games they've come out with in a while. I did get a chance to watch Ravenloft, the board game being played. This is from Wizards of the Coast. It's basically a board game version of Dungeons and Dragons, or albeit a simplified version. It looked like it was a lot of fun to play. Went through the rules. I can't wait to try this one. Earth Reborn, another very interesting game that I hadn't heard about, but Z-Man Games. It's also being designed by Christopher Bollinger from Dungeon Twister, so I'm very much looking forward to seeing this one. Then, of course, there was other things besides games there. There were people who walked around in costumes all day long, and there was also our entertainment.
How many of you think I can see through this? How many? Oh, that bloody many.
And there was a section where there were people building big displays out of used collectible card games so they could knock them down later on in the convention. And I didn't get everybody who was in costume, but I did get a few of them.
Not right. Listen, Uberos, get me out of here. Come on, we're buds. Please, anything. I have pictures. I can sell them. It's worth money.
One of the things that you'll see at Gen Con is just the displays of things that are bigger and better. Here we see the Settlers of Catan display, and you can see that there's special boards that people can put on to hide their cards. You can move and drag everything out with your fingers. It's a really fascinating thing, rolling the dice, and the board recognizes the dice. I think the whole thing's pretty cool. The problem is when I asked the lady how much it cost, she said, well, between 15 and 20, and she was speaking in the thousands. That's just a little too expensive for me, but hey, it sure is neat to look at. And the exposition was filled with giant games. Here's a giant Pompeii game. I'm going to try this out with a lampshade. Giant Shear Panic. Everyone thought that the sheep were pretty cute. I'm not sure anyone ever thought that there should be a giant game at Toledo. But Power Grid, on the other hand, that was pretty neat because they actually had little lights inside the towns as they were being powered. And Winning Moves also had their giant Pass the Pigs, which you could throw to see what kind of score you got. And just the whole idea of giant, I think, goes with the fact that this is the biggest convention. The ability here, many people are watching people play Magic the Gathering. Maybe this might be a boring match, but giant size, it's all lots of fun. And so those were special giant size versions. Of course, you can still buy your own giant version of Settlers of Catan. I mean, look, when you get in close here, the detail that is put into this is just amazing. Is it worth the price? Well, probably not. But there's so many Settlers of Catan variants out there that maybe you'd want to get a chance to play it. And anywhere else you could play it at the convention. As for me, I prefer to play the Settlers of Catan that was made with cookies and icing for roads and pretzel pieces. Wow, this was stopping everybody who walked by. That's the kind of game I like to play. Then if you were into torture, you could play a giant game of Zombies. I think Zombies is okay, but I'm not really sure I would want to play a game that's that large. So there's all sorts of large games. People were going to the 8-game booths here and buying tons of ducks. I think many of them were buying ducks, and they didn't even have the game to play. Dominion was a real big hit. Lots of people were playing in the real Grande gaming room where Jay was providing catered sandwiches that you could get here from this gentleman. And so people were playing all different games there, but let's face it, pretty much everybody there was simply playing Dominion.
Lord, I don't want to die here. I don't want to die in jail. Please, someone, please, just let me out. It's not right. It's not right.
Mattel was there with a bunch of interesting games. This Loops game has been getting a bunch of buzz. It's basically Simon Says, where instead of touching buttons, you're putting your fingers through them and you're trying to do it as fast as you can. I did okay at it. Probably looked a lot foolish, and you won't see that on video. Gen Con attracts big game publishers, but it attracts small game publishers too. This is a very small company making just a couple games, but they're welcome there right alongside the big publishers, and sometimes you can find some real gems. This game here, Globalization, looks interesting, although it looks kind of riskish at the same time, a bit economic. I haven't got a chance to play it yet, so I'll let you know. Dominion Prosperity, the new expansion, came out and was sold out in less than a day. I have to admit that I ran to grab one myself. Rio Grande is basically just Dominion and Carcassonne these days. This is an interesting game that I'm very much looking forward to trying out. It's called Lords of Vegas. I saw both this version and the Mega version there. Mayfair Games, but it just looks like it's a lot of fun. Maybe just the fact that there's dice all over the board. But Mayfair had a very big booth, and people were going around trying out all the different games that they were publishing and getting different ribbons for trying them out, the wheat, brick, wood, and then trading those with one another so that they could get better points. There was all sorts of games that were being sold. This one here is Pirate and needs an iPhone to be played. So you put your iPhone, get an application, stick it in the middle, and play the game. Looks pretty cool, right? Unfortunately, the gameplay is not as interesting as you might think. But hey, technology, it's coming to games. This game was getting a lot of buzz. City of Thieves. I heard that it was a fairly light combat game, maybe something more suitable for kids, but it sure looked good. Pirate vs. Pirate is the new game from Out of the Box Publishing. I like to, of course, mix it with Ninja vs. Ninja so that we can have Pirate vs. Ninja. We'll have to see if that's possible later on. There were quite a few party games there. Wits and Wagers was there, but this one was one of the newer ones, and that's Telestrations, which is basically a game that people have been playing for a while. On the internet, it's known as Eat Poop You Cat. But you can see here that the commercial version certainly has been growing in popularity, and I'm glad to have a copy myself. You know that I'm a big fan of dice, and this iron die comes with these metal dice in it. And metal dice would be cool as it is to stick them in games to use them. But this also comes with a game where you're basically using your dice to fight the other player's dice. So you have this game, but hey, these are really cool. You should feel them. This is not a Settlers of Catan. In fact, this game came out before Settlers of Catan did. Kings and Things, a very fun fighting game which has been revamped by Z-Man Games. There's the designer, Tom Vasel, and very much looking forward to trying this one out in the future. Dominion made a big splash with their deck building mechanic, so other games are also using this mechanic now. This is one of the newer ones, Ascension, and this one has only a few cards in the middle that you can buy, but those who played it said it's a lot of fun. This is one of the games I'm very much looking forward to trying out. But it wasn't the only deck building game. Heroes of Graxia was another one. This game is published by Petroglyph, who made Panzer General and another board game based on Graxia. But this is yet another fantasy game in the deck building genre. And again, this one also looks like it's a lot of fun. Mayfair, again, had a big display of games, and one of the newer ones is the Settlers of America. Duel of Giants from Z-Man Games has some really nice plastic tanks. And so that one is one I think that's making a big splash, especially considering how well received Duel of in the Dark was.
Right. What is it?
Banana.
Yeah, banana! We like bananas! Do you want to play again?
Alright.
What is it?
I'm the winner.
It's lose, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sorry, some of us have to be losers for the winners.
Yeah.
I know it's hard to imagine anything better than the game you just saw, but this game looked a lot of fun. Rather than being just zombies in your backyard, this is zombies all across the world, and each person has a country, and they're trying to stop the zombies from taking it over. So it's more about research management and technology than it is about war, but I do like the zombie theme. There are lots of different games that I saw at the convention, and if you want to hear about my favorites, I would check out my website at www.thedicetower.com, and we'll be posting our podcast with my top 10 games I saw at Gen Con. But this was one I was glad to see, Genblo. I spent almost a decade in Korea, and so it was good to see some of the games from Korea making a comeback. Here's another game that's making a comeback. This came out originally in 2003, but Cookie Fu is being reproduced, still with the fortune cookie theme, and dice again fighting one another. I wasn't a very big fan of the original version, but hey, I'm willing to give another shot. Maybe they've made it better. Invasion from Outer Space from Flying Frog Games has some really great components. Love the space invaders with their helmets and the different monsters involved, the miniatures. If the gameplay is similar to their zombie games, that would be okay, but man, the miniatures for me would make this game. This is something that I'm interested in, again, just because of the models and because I like the whole 1950s invasion of the alien themes. So this was one of the more interesting games that I saw, at least in terms of miniatures. Now, the most interesting game I think I saw at the fair was Innovation from Asmodee Games, and this is a simple card civilization game based on these little icons that you can see here on the cards. It certainly doesn't look interesting, but the game takes about 30 minutes or so, and it has so many different ways that it can be played and so much chaos that it's one I'm really looking forward to playing. So that's what I saw at Gen Con this year. I had a really great time, saw a lot of good games, saw a lot of you guys who watched the videos. Appreciate that. I hope you continue to watch them. I'll see you guys next year.
Alright, Steve Weeks. Someone contact Steve Weeks. Come on, he owes me one. Steve, if you're seeing this, I'm in jail at Gen Con.